and update in the subject line so I can get to it quicker. So I did want to touch on, I have been getting a bunch of emails and posts and texts about the bill here that was introduced. And I thank everyone outside of New York for your concern. Amazing how news spread and how people are standing up and speaking out for New York. A416, that was introduced by Assemblyman Nick Perry of Brooklyn. So this bill has been introduced every year since 2015. This guy has tried to get this bill to move. Now, here in New York in 2015, we had the Ebola outbreak. So, obviously, whatever agenda they wanted to carry out didn't kind of happen through the Ebola, which we're now seeing them in full force, right? So a little background about the legislature here in New York. This bill has never had a co-sponsor, and it has never had a sister bill in the Senate. It does not have a sister bill now. Not saying that it's not a concerning bill. Anytime that a legislator goes ahead and thinks that it's okay to introduce a bill to try to be passed into their de facto law that infringes on our rights, it's a problem. When it goes to this extent, it's completely alarming, and that person is definitely a tyrant and should be dealt with. Unfortunately for us here in New York, back last year, I believe it was February, I'm not exactly sure what month it was, the legislature dropped Bill S-7919/A-9953. This bill, the legislature agreed to give all of their legislative power over to Governor Cuomo. What this means is that you cut out all the middlemen, right? So he can get everything done without the bureaucrats and going through the pesky process of going through the legislature and all the committee members and all that
due process and law and all that nonsense.
Yeah, you cut out all that garbage that they deal with, right? And
don't waste my time with following laws. I'm Cuomo.
Yeah. So he just acts as a dictator. He has dictator power right now because there is no checks and balances. He just, via executive order, he does whatever he wants. Now, so Tank said this yesterday on the New York Assembly call. There are internment camps built here in New York, right? And we've known that. I had friends from Pennsylvania who was sending me video footage last year. I think it was in December of these trucks driving up these cages and weird stuff, right? And so they gave me a bunch of pictures, of this stuff. And the person who was sending it to me wrote me, "This looks like FEMA camps to me." And that was before, COVID really took effect and we had lockdowns here in New York. So, my point is that right now in New York, Cuomo has the power to completely avoid the legislature and detain us and throw us in internment camps. He has this power. He also gave this power, which, let me be clear, no government official can give their power to anyone else. The legislature can't give their power to Cuomo. Cuomo can't give power to an agency like the Department of Health. But back in 2015, he thought it was okay that he could, in his de facto world, give power to the DOH. So the DOH thinks that they have the power to detain you here in New York. They think they have the power to detain you right now. So they have threatened this. I'm not sure if it has been done, but because of the Ebola outbreak, the Department of Health here in New York does absolutely have the power on the de facto world to come into your home, detain you, detain anybody that you may have exposed, and your property. They just threw that in for giggles, right? So that's what we're dealing with here in New York. The New York Assembly basically assembled because of this, right? We were assembling before that, but
seriously, lady?
When Cuomo was given his dictator powers, it really woke the medical freedom community up here in New York, and we came to be in a time where we were in lockdown, and he was with via executive order mandating all these crazy things, locking down businesses, so on and so forth. So I'm absolutely aware of A416. We were aware of A99, which was the bill from last year. Same bill, just A416 is the bill reintroduced for this session. So we are also looking at A11179, which was introduced by Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal of Manhattan. And that bill would mandate the COVID-19 vaccine for all New Yorkers. So once again, Cuomo does not have to go through the legislature to get any of this done. He can do it via executive order because the legislature already voted to hand over their legislative power. So I have been speaking to several assemblies, and I think that we could put out this task to all assemblies, even if you're not official, right? You can definitely go ahead and so 1 second. I'm going to bring up the letter that I want to read. You can go ahead and foil. You can foil you can foil for oaths and bonds of your public servants. You can definitely do that while you're waiting to get to 13 members, while you're waiting to become official, while you're waiting for your public notice and the 21-day rebuttal. There's things that you can do to arm yourself because it's 2021 and it's time for the people to take back power, right? So we're start the year off by foiling, and arming yourself with as much information as you possibly can. The FOIL request, the information request, that information is how we arm ourselves to write these notices and to hold these public servants accountable, right? So we are sending notice to the NYC DOH here. So I will read a letter. I am requesting the following information in regards to COVID-19. 1, actual test being used. 2, specific protein or viral load being tested for each of the tests being used. 3, accuracy of each test being used. 4, turnaround time from sample submissions to results obtained for each test being used. 5, number of actual positive cases to date, specifically for COVID-19. 6, number of false positive cases to date, specifically for COVID-19. 7, evidence that mandatory masks are working to reduce the spread of COVID-19. 8, documentation that COVID-19 virus meets the requirements of a state of emergency and evidence of thereof. Okay, so this essentially, we're collecting this information. We want to transfer the burden of proof onto the legislators that are with all these lockdowns and these mask mandates and potential vaccine mandates, right? Prove that there's an emergency. Now, a lot of these acts and a lot of things that they can only do in a state of emergency, and they have yet to remove these states. Even in some of the states that we love, Florida, there's still a state of emergency. It could be because they're receiving federal funding for it, because even the good politicians still like money. So, we really need to transfer the burden of proof. So, I'm asking all the states to come together and to go ahead and foil your Department of Health on county levels, on state levels, and get this information so we can transfer the burden of proof back onto the legislatures that think that they can mandate these things. Mandate things, lockdowns, killing small business. The Department of Health in every state is a problem. So this should be our first task that we all come together and get done. Several people, even if there's 6 people within your assembly that are foiling, great, get it done. Everybody send it. Let's bombard them with. They're going to give us this information. So I think that's the first thing that we can all do together. So if you have any questions, you can definitely email me, nyapresident@protonmail.com. And that concludes my report.
Okay, stick around for a minute. So I got a couple quick questions here for you and Jen. So I want to recap on. So Jen was talking specifically. I think this is very, very important. The United States of America, the country that we live in, and really, in any country, we don't want to discriminate against race, nationality, creed, sex, caste, or color within the assembly body. the assembly body should be a fair representation of that area, that state.
Amen. Mm-hmm.
Right? I want to make sure I got that correct. That means that there's going to be different ideals and different concepts represented that are within the group that could be very multicultural or multi-religious or whatever. And for the most part, the whole idea, the incredible power of being an American, right? Really, and this is something that should be true across the world, but is that you have the freedom to practice whatever your religious belief is. However you want to observe God or source or the universe or Buddha or Allah or whatever that is, you have the right to do that so long as you do not hurt other people in the process. So if part of your religious belief is to sacrifice people, well, that is something we will discriminate against. Otherwise, as long as you're not hurting other people, if you worship CrossFit and Mountain Dew or whatever, it's okay. We will not discriminate against you, okay? As a rule. That's part of what you were saying, right, John? I just want to make sure.
Yes, it was. Thank you for reiterating that fact. He's had a lot of mixed things happen on the assembly, and I feel like it's important because the assembly's always changing. You have new members coming in, a lot of people that are, have never been on Life Force or come on Life Force, and we just want to make sure that, what we're representing is for everyone. We are the voice of the people. Like, this is not for one in particular group, and we sure as heck don't want to represent one specific group either. We want to be the voice of everyone. So I just thank you for drawing back to that.
Yeah, and now this next piece that Jeannie, you were talking about, I think this is really, really important for everyone out there in the government, every government in the world is a fiction. They only have power because we allow them to remain in power. Mm-hmm. The people are the ones who have hired them to play a part. You were not born into this to be a slave. They are subject to the will of the people. But the problem is, if we don't stand together, it's impossible to get anything done. If we waste our time arguing over things that do not matter, then we will never get to where we want to go. So, with that being said, it's very important that we take the opportunity, and as people are in these various fraudulent law-like organizations who are pretending to be, enforcing the law, which are essentially United Nations policy enforcement, and they're trying to tell us, you must do this because there's an emergency. Prove it. Prove there's an emergency. Death tolls have not risen at all worldwide as the scourge of humanity is raining down from heaven. We must run for our lives because of COVID-19. Death tolls haven't gone up at all.
So the FOIL, right? We're asking for proof that this is an emergency if it actually fits their criteria. So it doesn't. The COVID-19 outbreak does not even meet their criteria to declare a state of emergency.
Yeah.
Anything.
That's right. So the reality check. The CDC has never identified COVID-19. That should make everyone terrified, right? Like, wait a minute. It doesn't exist? Why can't they identify it? I don't know why, but they never have. And then the question is, well, how are they making a vaccine for a virus that they have not identified? What are they vaccinating against? That's the next question. And the third question is, how have they come up with all these protocols that they say will stop this disease, such as wearing masks, quarantines, various things that hurt the human psyche, the people every single day, have destroyed the economy? How is it that they came up with this series of protocols for people to go by to stop basically nothing? It's nothing. It's the flu. It's the flu. They've shown that in the United States, the flu has been eradicated by COVID-19. If anything, it would appear it might have actually saved lives, because I believe the death toll numbers are actually down by about 100,000 people. That's the reality. People don't like that. It just is what it is. So let's put the burden of proof back on them and say, okay, prove that you have the right to do this. Prove to us that this is what the best course of action is, and that you're actually doing it for my safety. Because what it appears is that you're trying to implement communism and force us all into anybody who resisted into a concentration camp and ultimately to kill us all. Or at least that's my impression. So, good idea. Thank you, Assembly. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing. And Guys,
Can I
really
just
important.
add
Everybody
in
out there,
there?
if you have not, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank